Information operations, they are deliberate use of information to confuse, mislead, affect the choices of the adversary. That the target is minds, right? The head. Okay. There are some commonalities between them, and of course now the screen is too far away, so I can't read it. So I'm going to stand up. I apologize here. Okay. Both of them depend on deception. Okay. Cyber operations, they depend on the ability to deceive you into clicking on a link, right? Nobody sends you an email that says, click here and I'll fry your hard disk. Nobody says that, right? There's a deception in there. Information operations depend on deceptive content, inauthentic attribution. Economic incentives reduce attention to cybersecurity. Right? You don't care about it enough. You don't pay enough attention to cybersecurity. It's too expensive to use. Okay. There are economic incentives to exploit cognitive limitations and to increase the time on platform. Right? Facebook has incentives to keep people on their platform as long as possible, and so they are exposed potentially to adversary information operations constantly. There are vulnerabilities in software. There are vulnerabilities in the human mind, what we call biases and cognitive biases that change the way we perceive the world. Both brains and computers both have limitations, bandwidth, memory, and the like. Convenience works against cybersecurity. And what the psychologists call cognitive economy works against analytical thinking. But you only have a certain amount of cognitive resources, and you can spend them here or there, and when you're out of it, you have to wait until they're replenished, or else you just fall back on your old intuitive thinking. You don't think things through very well. You make much worse decisions when you're hungry or sleepy, for example. For cyber, the great connectivity and integration of information technology, they are strengths, right? But they also turn into vulnerabilities in cyberspace. The First Amendment and commitments to truth. I'm from the United States. Those are really important to me, right? Skepticism. Those have been weaponized against us. Okay, those strengths have been turned into vulnerabilities. Okay. For both of these, there's a diffuse locus of response in the U.S. government. Nobody's in charge of this stuff, neither for cyber. I mean, 37 agencies. Well, no, dozens of agencies in the United States have something to do with cybersecurity, and there's nobody responsible for thinking about I/O. They both require not just a whole of government response, but a whole of society response. It's hard enough to get a whole of government response. Think about what it means to mobilize a whole society to respond. They both require that. The target space is not under government control. That's a good thing, right? But it's a problem, right? Private sector owns lots of cyberspace, but the private sector, people, individuals, you own your own minds, and all the people out there own their own minds. I don't want them under government control. But that's a problem in terms of developing a response. And in both cases, borders are ineffective. And here's some similarities. You think about it. You have to think about the battle space. What's the battle space in cyber? Well, it's cyberspace, right? The information environment is the corresponding construct for information operations. And note that it contains cyberspace in it. The other part of it, that's the physical and informational. Then there's the cognitive part of it, the cognitive dimension of the information environment. That is how people think about stuff. You can talk about cyber capabilities, offensive cyber capabilities in terms of gaining access, software, hardware vulnerabilities, and payloads. You can think of psychological operations as requiring access to the users, to people, taking advantage of their cognitive vulnerabilities and using tailored content to exploit those cognitive vulnerabilities. Think about the different kinds of impact that you might have on by targeting information technology, the usual confidentiality, integrity, availability. There's impacts on humans too. You can use I/O to inform, to persuade, to distract, to obfuscate, to mislead, provoke, confuse, and the like. Okay. You're going to think about viruses propagating in cyberspace. Okay. Viruses and worms as ways of conducting attack. Here, network segmentation.